Right, welcome back to Online Darts, everyone. We're here in the wonderful Prince of Wales in Ilkeston again. Makes a bit of construction work going on, developing the pub.
Yeah. We've just redone the back bar, so that's now got a dartboard in and an hockey in there. Had a wooden floor put down and had it decorated, and then we've just had all the toilets ripped out. So it's very much like a posh hotel toilet now. So it's lovely. So it's just being finished. Apologies for if there's any distractions, but we're due to open in a couple of hours.
Yeah, look, it's been a while since we've caught up down at mine end. Plenty gone on since then. But we'll start right at the top. Topical. The Premier League phase is done, and across the 16 weeks, what have you made of it?
I loved it last year. It was okay towards the end because we had the uncertainty whether Michael was, Van Gerwyn that is, whether he was going to qualify or not, and then obviously the Michael Smith, Nathan Aspinall match at the end, but I don't know, it got a little bit tiresome as a viewer, and I really enjoyed it last year. I enjoyed the start maybe because Luke Littler was involved and he really shook it up a little bit, and then the indifference of other players' form. Listen, it'd be easy for me. I said about Peter Wright, and that got blown out of all proportion. I said he would be in it, and it would be easy for me to absolutely cane him. But in all fairness, he played all right. And I think the issue, if he would have stuck with one set, because there was certain spells in that Premier League where he produced some great numbers, started to produce some great numbers away. But ultimately, as we've seen before, once you get bogged down at the bottom of the table, as good as Price is, and when you look at Price's number, the fact that he only picked up 7 wins in that entire campaign tells you how tough it is. So, yeah, congratulations to the 4. I think they were with the right 4. I think Nathan, who spent a long time in that top 4, will be disappointed, but it is what it is. It's a tough school. On
Nathan, 2 years in a row now, he's missed out on the final day. Look, we know he's a strong character, but this may take a little getting over.
Yeah, I think it was. I think when you combine everything that's happened to him with moving house, and then all the pressures that come with it, and then the pressures of trying to hold on to it. Listen, it will ultimately just sort of mentally, and he's one of the strongest mentally, but it will mentally get to you. And yeah, you'll have to lick his wounds, but I have no concerns over him. I rate him as I rate his strength mentally. I think he doesn't get. Last night was probably the most I've ever seen him probably get a little bit too emotionally invested in it, but that's no surprise, playing one of his best friends, and we've seen what it meant to Michael Smith afterwards. So I think he said it in an interview with you. He was more emotional about that match than he was the World. So it just shows you how much it means to the players.
Do you think last week's result in Leeds had any bearing on this week? Because Nathan, at one point, had Michael Smith beat.
Yeah.
And he missed multiple darts across legs to get the job done. And you could see he was beat up on stage because he knew if he'd won that game, it was all but done. Do you think that carried over into this week?
Yeah, I think when you've got that dwell time where you almost sort of compress it and try and make some kind of sense of a defeat. And if you've got a long time in between those meetings, you can almost forget. You overanalyze it, and then you realise, look, I can't change it. It's done. It's over. But the fact that it was so close together and so fresh in his mind, I think that would have played its part. And listen, it was 2 fabulous finishes. The 1-3-6 and then that 1-3-2 was an absolute sickener for Nathan. And sometimes you just got to hold your hands up and go, it is what it is, and move on. And unfortunately for the players, they don't have too long to wait before they're back in the saddle, and that'll be forgotten.
Luke Littler, I remember talking to you at Ali Pally, and we were all like, surely he's got to be in, and people were saying, oh, he's too young, don't ruin him too early. Yet he's topped the table and taken to life of Premier League darts like an absolute duck to water. Now, we keep saying, how good can he be? But every time us as media or whoever ask him a question, he throws it back at us with more questions to us. And topping the table on your debut year is some feat.
And getting 40 points, which joins Johnny Clayton. It's a record tally, isn't it? And almost had the opportunity to set a new record. And listen, I got mixed feelings. He was in. Well, we did the live lounge from here, didn't we, in the December? And I said then I thought he'd make the quarters, and I got laughed at.
Yeah.
But we had the insight of seeing him firsthand down at the Super Series for over 3 campaigns, and I saw enough then, and I said at least the quarters, because I thought, of course, he was going to run into one of Anderson.
Yes, you're right. Yes, we had the same opinion on it.
Yeah, and I thought maybe that would be a bridge too far, but he showed what he was capable of in the Worlds. And listen, if you can handle all of that, I had no fears for him at all. Did I expect him to finish top? Probably not. But I'm not going to sit here and go, oh, I can't believe it. Because, listen, when you can hit averages and deal with what he dealt with in the Worlds, the media and everything else. And I think, again, Michael Smith in the interview last night summed up, well, he don't really give a shit. He's plays with absolute freedom. He doesn't get embroiled in that whole fame thing. He's a real laid-back kid. He's got an old head on young shoulders. And listen, fair play to him. And all the players understand, very much like the Fallon factor. You know, when you went over to New York a couple of years ago, and I think it was Gerwyn Price said, look, and Michael Smith, listen, the game is getting more eyes on the sport, and we had that, and then it went to a completely different level with Luke, and credit to him, he's handling it absolutely incredibly. I certainly don't think I would have handled it the way he is. Across
the 16 weeks, we've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of Michael van Gerwen. He's won 4 nights, but fell into the playoffs pretty much. Last night we've seen a dart change back to the dart that won the 2020 UK Open. He went back. It was the UK Open.
Right. I was gonna actually ask you about that, but this is, listen. He walks in and we just go camera
on, and we just chat.
Yeah. Because I was going to ask you, were they the ones? And they're slightly heavier, aren't they?
Yes, they are heavier.
Which makes sense with what the players are dealing with in these big arenas with the.
Well, last night as well, his miss was high, not the low one, which was interesting. But where is Michael right now?
I don't know. I think I watched on Monday night when you and the boys were talking about coaching, and there was I mean this with all due respect, there was some flawed ideas in there, making reference to someone like people in sport that may not necessarily be good at the sport, and coaching a team is, listen, Alex Ferguson didn't teach a player how to kick a football.
No,
that was a technical coach.
Yeah.
Jose Mourinho it didn't matter whether they played the game to a high level or not, and that's why individual coaching stands alone. And what Jack said in terms of the 4 known coaches out there, I don't think I'd have put Nicholson in that mix, because I always thought he had a nice action and a nice throw.
Oh, well, I'm with you. I like the Nicholson.
But I totally understand from a player's perspective, if they hadn't achieved what they achieved in the sport and walked in and I watched them throw and they tried telling me how to throw a dart, I go, well, sort your own throw out first before you're telling me. If you can't sort your own throw out, how are you going to show me how to sort mine out? And that would be the player's mentality. And I do think Michael. Listen, you have a closer relationship than I do with Michael, so I don't know what goes on away from our eyes, whether he is seeking a bit of advice here and there. But incredibly, his throw has evolved into what it is now, and it's okay at the moment. But I think in time, it will either go one or two ways. Phil's throw changed, but not that drastically, and that closed hand. And I'm with you. It's opening that hand quick enough. I think Wayne touched on it a few times. He gets so many low darts because he just can't get out of the hand quick enough and can't elevate it. But there's flashes of absolutely brilliance from him. So can he work with that and then get back to somewhere near his best? Only he knows, and only time will tell. But there's worrying signs for me over the past. But we've said that over the last couple of years, and then all of a sudden, he could turn up next week. He's won it 7 times. You'd be a brave man to bet against an 8th because of how mentally strong he is. But there is some interesting changes in his own words about. It was. I think again, you touched on it Monday night. He used to say, "Look, they all know I'm the governor, I'm the daddy." Now it's more, they all know if I get it right, I can be competitive. So that's a bit of a worry. But listen, if he never won another thing in darts. He still will go down, depending on what generation you're from, either the GOAT or the second best player ever to tickle tungsten.
Well, I thought last night was interesting. The dart looked in a better hand position last night. It was always at least parallel or just pointing up, and Vincent's spoken about it on Viaplay.
Right.
And the last 2 weeks, interestingly, Vincent has been there.
Right, okay.
So Michael's go-to. I remember back in 2020 when he was going through that spell, all of a sudden Vincent was there.
Right.
And they've been working, Vincent said it on Viaplay, that away from the stage, they have been working on things together. So whenever there's an issue, he goes to his best mate and his go-to.
Yeah.
And I remember,
as you should.
I remember when Vincent, when we were speaking about this was a couple of years ago, he said to me, I won't accept it if he doesn't put the effort in.
Yes, I remember that.
Obviously with Vincent there, that says to me something's been triggered upstairs, and it's like, hang on a minute.
Yeah, I mean, I thought in spells, he was touching around the 108, 109 mark last night. So, and I thought the angle of entry looked a lot better. There's a bit more aggression in the throw. There's a bit more assurity, and that may be just having that extra couple of grams in the hand. And listen, those darts, I remember when he went to them, everybody was like, oh, I can't believe he switched darts. That particular UK Open that he won, he averaged 105 for the whole tournament.
Yeah, 9 darter in there as well.
Yeah.
He was incredible.
And I was amazed that he went, nah, they're not quite right. And I was like, wow, what are we going to see from him? But yeah, sometimes a change is as good as a rest. And listen, in spells, if he gets it right, I think with Michael now, he's going to have to, the depth, the pool of players now is remarkable that can all do what he can do. And, you know, and going back to that same thing, if your name's on the pot and you can dodge a few bullets here and there, and your timing's up and the stars align, he will win tournaments because he can still play to a high enough level. The problem is where before his B and C game was sometimes enough to get him through, and the respect the players had for him. I'm not saying the players don't respect what he's achieved, but they no longer look at him with that fear factor anymore. They know they have the game to beat him on a regular basis, and that keeps happening.
Were you surprised though that he changed? Because he's not a massive dart changer. It was a surprise when I saw them back out again last night.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought, are they because
I clocked it straight away from practice. I went, what? Yeah. It just clocked it straight away.
I thought he looked remarkable with because they were an early evolution from Wimbledon Red Dragon, and I thought and that was almost straight off the bat. I thought they've got it right straight away. He averaged, like I say, over 105 for the tournament, but didn't stick with them. And maybe he's just. It was funny in the pre-match interview. He said, you know, maybe I can do something different.
Well, I'll tell you what I thought he was going to do there, because he's been practicing with the all-in-one system.
Right. Okay.
And I thought it might have been he was going to give them.
Yeah, I knew something was going to change.
Yeah, I knew.
I certainly didn't expect a barrel change.
No, not back to those ones we haven't seen for 4 years either.
Yeah, but yeah, for me, that's not panic stations. I think, and the way he played with them, he's obviously very comfortable. And I think the issues the players had in these big arenas. It may be a wise decision because you go up in weight. You know, it's like when we always used to go to Vegas years ago. We'd all go up a couple of grams just to combat the air.
Stable through the air.
Yeah, they're a lot more stable through the air. There's a lot more weight to keep them stable as they meet their most aerodynamic position going through the air.
Where do you think Gezi is right now? Because last night it looked as if he checked out. Obviously, he missed a week through injury.
Yeah.
Now again, call me a cynic, but
You've been getting in trouble for that lately.
I'm pretty sure he's been told you're not missing the next two, because he went to Leeds, pulled out the Euro Tour, where if he was okay or wanted to play, I'm pretty sure he'd have gone to a ranking event. And then last night, the last two legs, he was just throwing them. And then we saw the infamous Instagram post straight over. I'd like to say I enjoyed it, but I didn't. I don't really want to play the Premier League ever again. Where is he right now, do you think?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure the Premier League suits him. Not necessarily suits his game, but maybe his personality. I'm not sure he's cut from the same cloth as other players that like relish it it's the be all and end all to be in it. I think he likes I think he loves the Euro Tour. I think he loves that environment. Doesn't like the travelling, but you can't have one without the other. Yeah, I don't know. He moans. Listen, I love Gezi, you know that, but he's one of those that wouldn't surprise me if he went, you know what, ta-da, I've had a great time, and he's achieved an unbelievable amount in such a short space of time with no previous experience at this level. He's not one of these that have come through the Luke Humphries system of ticking boxes along the way.
The old BDO system.
Yeah, not even playing at county and getting used to that sort of stage and the environment and everything else. He literally come from playing in the pubs to a bit of Super League to getting a card, and the rest is history. And it would be a loss. I think he's absolutely box office. He's right up there with some of the greatest Welsh players of all time. But he just doesn't see. I just don't think he loves the game, and I don't. If you know that saying, if you love your job, you never work a day in your life, and I worry. I do worry for him, and I'm just not sure he's got. Listen, he's got the passion for winning. He is a sportsman and he loves to win, but you know, and it's a tired phrase, but hard work beats talent when talent don't work hard, and he is ultimately talented, but does he have that desire? Does he want to put the hard yards in? Or if you're going to tournaments thinking, oh, here we go again, another flight, you're not going to get the best out of you. And I just want to see him. You see him a lot do exhibitions. I've been there, I've done a few with him, and he's got a smile on his face, and he loves it. And more often than not, we see him produce some of his best darts. And maybe some sports psychology would do him good, maybe just a different attitude. Listen, he's made his dough. He certainly ain't short of a few quid. Why not just say, do you know what, for the next year, I'm just going to have some fun with it. Maybe embrace the pantomime villain, which is, he doesn't have sadly the pantomime villain, but you can turn that around. You can change that, and I think we'd see the best of him.
Are you concerned that one thing in his current mindset is just going to tip him over the edge, where he just goes, I'm done, and just instantly walk away?
Yeah. I could 100% see it, because he's no longer playing for the financial gains. He's obviously a very smart man. He's invested pretty much every penny he's earned. He would still be in demand on the exhibition circuit. You know, that's why we questioned with Gary a couple of years ago. Gary could quite happily walk away and do, I don't know, 4 or 5 nights a month, earn probably more money than most of the players running around chasing Euro Tours and Pro Tours, and spend time at home with the family and watching his kids grow up. So yeah, it's a totally different mentality to the ones we have, because we had no choice but to play. We had to play because that was the only way to qualify for tournaments, to ultimately, you know, chase that golden egg of the Worlds, where that was the only place there was money.
It's interesting. I'm interested to see how the land lies over the next few months.
You know, take a month off. Take a month off, and then in that month think, do I want to do it or not? You know, listen, this is speculative for me. You know what I think of him. I think he's an asset to the sport. He's another player that brought a different dimension that we haven't seen probably since the days of Bristow and Jockey and Alan Evans. And like I said, I think he's an asset to the sport, and he's been an asset to the sport. But I worry if that ultimately, I think being bothered is probably not the right kind of word, but it'd be interesting to see what he does. And I think, you know, Ronnie O'Sullivan had a similar attitude, didn't he, for a while, and then he worked with Peters, and he managed to find a way of changing the mindset and the mentality, and maybe that's something that Gezi would benefit from, because he is incredibly talented, and when he's on it, I mean, he is a joy to watch.
Before we wrap up the Premier League, who wins next week?
Humphries.
Does he play Littler in the final?
I'm not so sure. I'm not sure. I mean, listen, although he's done incredible, there's a little dip happening in the form that you know, all of the numbers when you combine look very impressive, but when I take a sort of short sample, maybe he's having a little bit of a dip in form, and I don't think it is the most elite level. You can afford that little dip. If he's not absolutely on it, I think he's in a spot of bother. But if any one of the four win it, I wouldn't be surprised, because they've all showed this year elements of their game that they're very capable, especially over the one player that's shown they can do it continually has been Humphries more than anybody, alongside Littler. The two Michaels have been a bit hit and miss. So the two Lukes are the two favourites for me, but certainly wouldn't sort of be in shock and awe if either of the Michaels won either.
You touched on Gary there in that little segment. Again, the rebirth of the Flying Scotsman is remarkable, because we thought he was walking off into a sunset and saying, thank you very much for the memories, I've been Gary Anderson.
Yeah.
That spark that he now has, winning a Euro Tour, will be going to Dortmund, is just remarkable. I remember when he lost his father, he had that dip as well, and we were like, he managed to come back, but to do it again.
Yeah, what was it? Was it 10 years and?
Yeah,
something like 10 years in between Euro tours.
There was a decade in between.
Yeah.
But to reinvent himself again, it's just incredible.
And arguably playing better darts than he ever has in his career.
I think he's playing the best he's ever.
Yeah, well, statistically.
Yeah.
You know, again, we don't need to have an opinion on it. The numbers which the game gives us tell us that in spells he's playing better than he ever has, and it just shows you how tough the game is when you think during this period of monstrous numbers he's picked up a Euro Tour, a Pro Tour, and we keep saying it, he's knocking on the door of nicking another major, and of course the next one on the list will be the match play.
Where is he on the all-time great list for you?
Top 10, I don't know, top 6, that's easier before him. He's top 10. He's right up there, but it's so hard because there is so many greats. But it's a box ticking thing for him now, right? What haven't I won?
Yeah.
I need to win that one, and I think. Listen, I think if ultimately he gets the full set of titles available to him in this current era, he goes down as I think. Listen, my opinion on Taylor is. He's the greatest of all time. Yeah. And then Michael, and then Eric, but then you've got this pool. Then it's a Barney, Anderson, Lowy, or where'd you go? And it's so hard to just sort of say, well, he's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I just think you sort of say. But that top 10 is just getting more and more filled with potential top 10 players. But that shows you the growth of our sport. That's a positivity, and that's something that could Luke Littler be one of those that ends up in my top 10. I need a top 20, I think.
Let's see, I've got him 4. But that's probably that's a generation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. On mine, I'd have him 4.
Like I said, this whole top 10 debate, it's not numbers. It's a combination of numbers, achievements, longevity,
100%.
and the way they've done it. You've got to have that.
And I'm not being disrespectful to John Lowe, because he is one of the greatest, but the way he did it is not flamboyant. When you watch in that era, Bobby, for instance, and listen, and when you watch Gary do it, again, style over substance.
Absolutely, it's like Dennis Priestley, one of the greatest I've ever seen. But because we got this new era of fans, they're like, he's too slow, and
that's what I mean. Yeah, it's about that style.
But I enjoyed that, watching them sort of almost. It was like Bob Anderson. He would almost visualise the shot. And Priestley was quite similar, and they were, and John as well. The accuracy and the focus and the concentration, which I don't think you could do nowadays, because there'd be too much going on
over the longer format.
I think that's why the speed of the game has just continued to increase, because you have to be that quick. Because if you have any dwell time, you're going to get pelters.
Does Gary win a TV tournament this year?
Yeah. Sorry, Gary, I haven't jinxed it.
Which one would you like him to win?
Grand Slam.
Yeah, so the Slam would.
Yeah.
My only concern is if he wins the Slam and has a good Worlds, he might bugger off when he's playing really well.
The problem with the Slam is he's playing those two absolute marathons in one day, which is they've got to change it. He's over 50. Doesn't looks well. I have to say, and he's an hard worker. He's always working on the lakes, and so obviously keeps himself fit. But that's tough. That's tough at 21.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Never mind. What is he? 51. 52,
I think. Yeah. Sorry, Gary.
That's tough, real tough, and that would be my only reservation. Where the match play, you get that whole day to recover, get ready for that night match, and I think that's probably more realistic. And again, probably any tournament where he's not expected, although he did win a Euro Tour, I know, but shorter course and. That's different, but the Slam is just exhausting, which is why I think over the years a lot of the finals have been damp squibs.
Well, on the Slam, we'll just shoehorn this in now.
Yeah.
Does the whole tournament need a revamp?
Yeah.
Because it's like lost its identity. It was always the cross-code tournament, and now obviously there isn't any cross, and it just lost its identity, I think, and it's just a bit of a meh.
Yeah, it's a tournament we cover on ITV, the Masters. That's another one. I think that needs a rejig of something, and we both agree on this one. Top 32, rank it. I think add a session to it. I know it's all about money, but it's not like they're not making plenty of money. Look at
Company's ashes.
Yeah, exactly. Made more money than the boxing. So yeah, I think and I understand the logistics and everything else, but yeah, add a session to it. I get more money. That's great, and I think the fans would enjoy. I think the viewers would be more engrossed with it if it was a ranked tournament. And I like the idea of it being the winner who hasn't got a Premier League spot gets a Premier League spot. The likelihood of someone not in the Premier League winning it, we'd have said a few years ago, wouldn't happen. But just adds a bit of spice, and I know they've removed that now, but I think there would be more justification for that player being in the Premier League if it was a ranked tournament. I think the Slam, they've got a big 9-day tournament, and the argument will be, we've got to have groups and makes it more exciting. The bookies probably like it more. The bookies obviously they're a key involvement in the sport. I expand it, make it, I don't know, a World Cup type thing of darts. Get players, they do it in the World Cup with the pairs. Maybe get qualification tournaments. So it's almost like a World Championships, but a smaller version. But make it different. I don't know. Find some way of go sets and legs.
Yeah.
Three sets, three legs.
The original Masters format.
Yeah. Change the Masters. Call this one the World Masters, and do it. Best of 3 legs a set. Just something, because listen, the game's on such a high. And the PDC are not going to sit back and go, oh, well, it doesn't need changing, it works, it makes money. They're always thinking, they're always trying to evolve and find different ways to capture the imagination of the audience. And listen, I don't think they'll ever have a problem selling tickets for events. But the Slam sometimes is quieter than all the rest of them. And I think that's because it's a bit too samey.
Just picking this one back up because we hit the time limit on record. On format changes, obviously the Premier League itself, we've seen this one now for a few years. Is it time, and has it had its day? Because I appreciate for the fan in the venue, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
It works for the fan in the venue.
Yeah.
But the fan at home, from what I see, is totally unengaged with the Premier League in this format.
Yeah, well, we do a Premier League prediction in the pub, and the interest in the early stages, we can tell, because obviously football and everything else. Well, the till doesn't lie. But then as it's gone on, it's there's been we've got the hardcore fans that will always come in and watch it on a brand new 70-inch flat screen. But then you get the ones that who were a bit casuals, but they came in at the start of it. They were fascinated by it, the Luke Littler effect and everything else. But then they got a little bit bored of it, and that gives me a good insight into. Listen, we're darts fans. I watch any kind of darts. I love it. But for the casual audience who may subscribe to Sky, which is something we want to watch, or may find the darts on ITV4, it's their priority is to get them engaged. And I'm not sure. I like it because I see it from a fan's point of view, and obviously I go to the Premier League, and it's great seeing like a little mini competition. But I want to see more players. I think with the World Series and seeing the same group of players in that, and again, I want to see more players, and I want to see more players get the opportunity and come through. So I think I'm not sure it's great value for money. I think it's over too quick. I think they could do a build-up show from 6:30 till 7, hit the mark at 7 o'clock, and have a 12-player field, and do it in the old format maybe for a year, and see if that changes the numbers. Nowadays, of course, they can see the numbers a couple of hours after it's been, the transmission's finished. So, and I think now we've got a deep enough pool of players where and have an elimination. So maybe for the last 4 weeks of it, you lose 4 players, and then you could go back to the current format of a knockout every week to decide who the final 4 is in the end. Something like that. I don't know. I'm talking shit, but I think it needs something, and I want to see more players up on that big stage.
Well, on the players and the pool of players we've got, are the PDC doing a disservice to that pool of players with the World Series in particular? Because it's basically an extension of the Premier League. We've got a few changes, but that's not because they wanted to pick other players. It's because certain Premier League players have made themselves unavailable.
Well, it's interesting because Pricey wasn't going to do the New Zealand or Australia. So someone's wrote him a nice big check, or he's changed his mind. I'm not sure, but I could totally understand why,
But I look at the players that we've got in. I think Bunting's winning tournaments. Joe Cullen, Johnny Clayton seems to have been just discarded.
Yeah.
But these are all still Damon Hatter. Obviously, he's going to Australia.
Well, look at the last couple of years, the amount of players that have been in the final of the Premier League and dropped the following, the following year.
That's what I mean. It's almost as if these 8, they've gone exclusively, and it's like, hang on a minute, there's a bigger pool, and we need to showcase these players to the world as well.
I agree. Yeah, that's how you build up. That's how you build up a fan base. You think in a totally different level. You think about the seniors. A lot of players maybe never heard of, or fans never heard of Leonard Gates or Richie Howson or Colin McGarry, or these players that have now got their own little fan bases. Well, on a much bigger scale, that's similar to that. I think we know how. I can't word this right without upsetting him. Barry Hearn's arrogant for a reason, because he's a very successful man and he knows what he's doing. But you also got to be careful then that, this whole mediocrity thing and everything else, that you don't turn players off who think, well, I'm never going to get a chance. How many are we going to lose who are not getting the opportunity, or how many players are going to become disillusioned about not getting more opportunities, and maybe that they don't have that drive anymore. I totally understand we live in a different world now where they got all these geniuses that goes, well, he does numbers. Yeah, well, how do you know the other guys ain't going to do numbers? How do you know those guys aren't going to grow in that environment? And yeah, I think, and again, it goes. That's why I think the Premier League should be extended to 12. I think do it for 12 weeks. That way we get to see how good is Bunting going to be up there now. He's played in the Premier League before, we know, but again, players evolve and grow at different stages in their career, and that goes for all sports. Dobie, I want to see him have a proper campaign. I want to see him involved in as many World Series events as possible. Remember Rob Cross was left out after winning a Europeans. Listen, it's a great problem for him to have, but we have a different relationship with the players than they do.
Yeah.
So we know how they're feeling, how it's being somewhat overlooked, how that affects them, because they moan to us about it.
Well, they're almost scared to speak out because of the repercussions.
Of course they are.
If they do.
Well, we know we live in this world now that if you don't have an opinion that meets the woke brigade, they try and cancel you. But again, I worry about the majority, not the minority.
another on topical subjects, obviously.
Go on then.
Look, obviously we've had.
I told you it would happen.
Yeah, for the first time that we've had a match forfeited, not played. However, you want to do it because of a transgender female playing in female sport. It's an interesting dynamic of what's gone on. What's your take on it?
You can paint stripes on a donkey, but it's still not a zebra. It is what it is. We live in this world where those concerned or offending on other people's behalfs, that they don't need protecting. Ultimately, Noah was given an avenue in because of fear of saying no. Look at what's going on with the Olympic Committee, and listen, women have campaigned for years to have that right of standalone independent sport. And I said 3 or 4 years ago we did an interview where it will only stop when women stop winning women's sport. And listen, it's a decision you make as a person. But that doesn't make everything inclusive. That's not in the real world. What are men going to start playing in women's football? That's the end of women's football, isn't it? They don't matter, you know. There's some great talented women players or female players in that sphere, but they're not ever going to have that physicality. Maybe the odd one here and there. It's like Clarissa Shields, the self-proclaimed goat of boxing, saying that she wants to fight a man. Really? What happens if she gets killed?
Yeah.
Like, where does it stop? And this is all driven by some form of strange feminism. I can remember when Daniel and Charlotte got cancelled. And again, that was driven by this feminism movement. You just put 2 girls with a young family out of a job. How is that positive? And then you replace it by female cheerleaders or dancers. Like, how? I don't. Maybe it's my lack of understanding, but I'm still waiting for someone to explain how, like, ruining female their efforts to stand alone in sport or in life, how there's a positive. And I just cannot get my head around it. And this was something that was bound to happen. Now everybody wants to everyone's starting to go, oh, well, hang on a minute. Too late. When it initially happened, and I said at the time, no one will care if they're no good. As soon as they start winning, everybody will kick off. And it'll be the same thing if men started playing football, or women got involved in men's boxing. Like, listen, open sport's great. Everybody have a go. You know, you don't, you know, it's not poker. Although there is women's poker, but ultimately it's an open category. The PDC is an open category. But a male and female category was introduced in sport for a sensible reason. And if it doesn't stop, it's the end of women's sport, isn't it?
Do you think it will change within, this is specifically darts, do you think it will change, or do you think it's set and that's the way it's going?
Well, let's play devil's advocate, right? If and I'm not undermining, if you're a male that feel like you were born to the wrong gender, that's a totally different conversation. Let's keep this to sport, right? But if you were a young man coming through who was super talented, and the women's money was on par with the men's money, and you could quite easily play in that, where would you play if no one batted an eyelid? You're going to play in the women's game, aren't you?
Yeah.
You know, if women's golf all of a sudden was paying twice that of male golf, and you were a male golfer who was ranked 100 in the world, well, this is how stupid the conversation is. It's just, where does it stop? Where on earth does it stop? And ultimately, this I'm not sure it's good or bad publicity, but what it has done is made people have this conversation. Maybe something can sort of be changed. You know, listen, Noah's a lovely girl. I've spoken to her, fabulous dart player, but it won't end well. It won't end well, and we've got to also think of the damage being done mentally to her, because she probably feels awful right now, but it's not her fault because they let her play. It's your fault. You deal with it. But the people that shouldn't be being punished is the female players.
Interesting what you said about the winning, because 2 years ago, I'm sure there would have been people behind the scenes saying this isn't right, but as you said there, as a group, there was no murmur before Noah started winning publicly. Behind the scenes there may have been,
yeah, there was
but publicly there was no outcry,
no threat
until Noah won that challenge tour. Then it all went to another level.
Yep. Yeah. And ironically, she's well within her rights to play in an open category challenge tour. The problem comes is winning on the women's series. That's where the issue is. It's not her winning on a challenge. That's an open category. Well within her rights to play in that, as is every other female and male. It's an open category. When men start winning in women's sport, or biological men, that's when it becomes a problem, and that's why there is an issue right now.
The interesting one as well is that obviously Dieter pulled out of Denmark because it was a women's one, but then a couple of days later she said that she'll play Noah in the home nations for England because it's a non-ranked event. Does that kind of undo the argument a little bit to say that I'll play a transgender female in a non-ranked event because there's nothing financially on it, but I won't in a ranked event when there's ranking points or money involved?
No, I think playing for your country means something different, maybe, to her. We know how proud she has been to be an international all these years, and I think maybe she feels, right, I've made my stance, now it's up to you. Now it's up to everybody else. But I think maybe she feels playing at international level is different. Only Dieter could possibly answer that.
Yeah, it's an interesting, especially with the women's world match play on the horizon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I thought it was great for Dieter to make it. Could it be done slightly? I'm not sure whether it could have been done any. Like I said, I think of the mental welfare of Noah as well in all of this, because again, it's not her fault, but now, although she didn't get punished by Dieter not playing, it's the backlash of everybody and the way they support it, and maybe sometimes the way you go about stating your feelings on things. You also got to think that she's probably thinking to herself, well, that's me, you know, where can I play, who can I play? And that decision shouldn't have been in her hands in the first place. That's the decision of our governing bodies and the people that make these choices about these things, because what you've done is you've sort of handed something and now you're going to go, right, no, we've changed our mind. So what happens to all that time and dedication and everything else? And like I say, in our sport, it's slightly different because it's an open category outside of the women's series events. But let's see what happens if Noah then she played brilliant to win that challenge tour. Remarkable darts, quality all day. How will she be accepted if she goes on to do even bigger things in the PDC, get a tour card, qualify for TV tournaments? What damage has this all done? And I'm not talking about Dieter in this thing. I'm just this wokeness. What damage is that going to do? Is she prepared to put herself through that? You know, and again, if this would have been nipped in the bud at the beginning, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But of course, then it was like, oh no, or inclusivity and everything else. Well, I said it, I've been saying it for years, it will not work.
Staying with the WDF, announced that the Masters will...
The announcement of announcement?
No, the announcement to announce an announcement, yeah.
Nothing's changed there.
They've said the tournament is coming back to the calendar this year. A positive for the WDF, or
is it going back to the proper format?
I believe not. That's not confirmed, but I'm told
it's no longer the World Masters.
I'm told not. It'll be the same format as it was before.
Yeah, it's lost its identity. It's lost its credibility. Good luck to anyone who wins the tournament. Still great to be on that list of names, but just get the Worlds right, and then we're about doing other tournaments. Are they going to have any financial gain out of it, the WDF?
But they haven't announced. Again, we're still waiting for.
Are they going to make a bundle of money that they can reinvest into the sport? No. It's just no one listens. So, I think I don't get it. At least they've advertised Lakeside earlier this year, and ticket sales are looking good, and the fact that it's staying at Lakeside for another year. Are they looking for another venue? Have they got sponsors? Have they got a TV deal? Has the Masters got a TV deal? They worry about secondary. Oh, let's just get out there. We got a tournament. Well, what kind of tournament? You know, is it worth the players travelling the globe to get the ranking points to get in it? Is it worth it? How far have they got to go to just break even for the year? I don't know. But no one listens, so I don't talk about it anymore.
Do you think this is potentially the last year at Lakeside then?
Don't care. It's just lost. I'll remember it when it was great.
Yeah, I think a lot of people.
It was great. Even when it was up against the then WDC and then the PDC. It had its flaws, but it's still. It was romantic, wasn't it?
100%, yeah.
And the venue was, although again, like I've said before, it's not that. It just got that nostalgia.
Yeah.
And I'll just remember it for what it is, because I don't know, the way it's broadcast and presented. It breaks my heart because listen, this is where it all started.
The match play, Blackpool is on the horizon. However, there are some potential big names in danger of not being there. And then I look at the non-seeded players. There is some nightmare draws for some of those seeds as well.
Yeah, this could be. We say every year, it could be the best one ever. But yeah, Wadey's just on the brink. I think Gabriel Clemens could.
Yeah, Dirk's not in at the moment.
No, Dirk's not in at the moment. But that's no surprise. He's sort of on the road to recovery. But yeah, it's a fabulous tournament. Of course, I'm doing the event at the Grand Hotel on the
night before,
and then I got an exhibition with Devon Peterson and Kevin Painter on the Friday, and then Friday night, me and you in Pop World. No,
we'll get into Pop World one day.
Yeah, we will. It's great, and then I'm in Trilogy on the Tuesday. But yeah, it's listen. When I finished as a player, I went as a fan, but I never thought I'd be working on the event, and I've been now for a good few years for TalkSport, and I absolutely love being there. It's the second best thing to playing in the tournament is talking about the tournament. So can't wait.
Just when the season starts, the match play.
Yeah, for me, getting the Premier League over and done with, which sounds terrible, but once that's out of the way, you think, right, the players can really start to knuckle down, and then we start to see where their game really is, especially the ones that weren't fortunate enough to be involved in the Premier League. Can Gezi rebuild and get his confidence back in the time he's got until the match play comes around? It's I can't wait to ultimately see the lineup, see the seeds and the unseeded players, and then get that draw done.
Madison Square Garden, is on the horizon, the third carnation. And actually, speaking to the PDC lads last night, they've already sold more tickets right now than they had the whole of last season. They've opened the third tier in Madison Square Garden.
Wow.
And it's on course to completely sell out.
Shows you how it's captivated the American audience, which is fabulous, and the expats over there, of course. You imagine the demand if it was in Boston. It would be even greater, I think. But PDC have done a fabulous job, as has the CDC over there. They, of course, through their integration of our sport, have put big eyes on the sport, which is great. I love that tournament. Sadly, I'm doing Denmark and Poland, so I'm not doing New York. Are you going?
Yeah.
Of course you are. But yeah, again, another great tournament. I know everybody moans about their timings and everything else, but I was that kid that would wait up until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning to watch Mike Tyson fight for 90 seconds, so I don't care.
Mine was Naz.
Yeah. But yeah, it's fabulous to see the sport growing over there. And listen, we want to find an Asian superstar. Schindler's been doing amazing things for Europe. We just need, there's certain countries, an American and a Canadian, another John Part we need, because if there was an American player or a Canadian player capable of winning these tournaments now, how big would it be over there?
Yeah, or the American that I think will go to that level is Spellman. I rate him so highly. I genuinely do. I think he's the one that could go to that level.
He has the ceiling, certainly.
Yeah.
For him, he has a fabulous job, and he's a real chilled out, laid back guy. I like Alex, got time for him. Got to know him well when he was down at the Super Series. He's potential is probably not the right kind of word for him, because we've seen what he's capable of doing. So it's not potential. I think for him it's commitment now, and whether he can juggle everything, his family life, his work life, and his dart life. But yeah, I'd love to see him get on a run.
World Series, where would you like to go to next? Where's the next area that the PDC try to put the sport into, the way they have America and Australia?
Northern Ireland, Wales, or Scotland, or just Ireland, Dublin.
Yeah.
I think there's too much darts abroad now. I totally get why there is. Commercially, it's no-brainer, but I don't. What do the Scottish get? Premier League.
Two Premier League nights.
Not good enough, is it? Not when you think of the history. They know the demand for tickets up there. Maybe it's down to finding the right venue or anything else, but we get one night in Cardiff. Darts is massive in Wales. They got a superstar in Gerwyn Price and Johnny Clayton. It don't make sense to me, but I totally understand they're looking for new broadcast partners, so they go to these countries to get more broadcasters on board, which obviously pay the money, that pay the players, that pay me and you, blah, blah, blah. I'm not sure. Maybe Canada?
2 for me. Canada.
Yeah.
South Africa.
Yeah. Either South Africa would be a good one, actually, because there's certainly the hunger for the sport there, but I think it's logistics and Barry holding on to his dough.
On that evolution of darts in general, we've spoken obviously Barry, and now Matt is doing the day-to-day running of it. I know Barry's still obviously there, but Matt is doing it. Where does darts go next? Because the boom we've had since Littler has been incredible, but how does darts go from where it is now to that superstardom sport level?
I don't know. The one thing I love about Matt and Barry is not only do they have a passion for business, but they have a passion for our sport, and it's a genuine passion. When if I'm at events and they're both there, I always have a look just to see if they're looking at the numbers or looking at the sport. Barry loves our game, and took a big gamble on it as well. People think he just walked along and then
it was hemorrhaging money back in the day.
Unbelievably. And they have done an amazing job, as do the team that we work alongside, probably closer. And it is a vast team of people, and they're all as I say before, industry experts, and I don't think Matt will rest until it is absolutely reached its optimum level. I don't. Whenever a rare chance we get down to have a sort of a normal sort of 10-minute chat. Obviously, he doesn't tell me everything, but I'm always going, well, what about this? Well, and he sort of gives me a look as if to say, don't worry, we're on it. And that's, listen, I will. We had a vision back in the day of this, and I'll always be grateful to Barry and Matt, who ultimately have sort of fulfilled a dream I had. Obviously, it was to still be a player, but to still be involved and watch our sport changing normal people's lives. And there's not many other sports like that. Boxing maybe another, snooker maybe another, but yeah, it makes me gooey-eyed.
Mace, we've done an hour. Absolute pleasure, as always, here at the wonderful Prince of Wales in Ilkeston, mate. It's an absolute pleasure.
Pleasure, pal. Take care.